Hey there, you're watching Wildflower Video Tips. I'm Lindsay Moe, and today we're going to talk about 5 common mistakes you might be making in Adobe Premiere Pro. Whether you're new to working in Premiere or you've been at it for a while, chances are you will come across one of these mistakes at some point or another. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong, just imagine you're doing the same thing you've always done and all of a sudden it doesn't work the way you think it should. These mistakes might be caused by accidentally clicking a button or changing a setting without realizing it, and it can really cause a headache if it's not performing the way you think it should. These are easy to fix and they're great to know ahead of time before you ever come across them, because then you'll be able to fix them so easily and quickly and get back to editing. Before we get started, I would love to have you hit subscribe right below this video. That helps make sure you never miss another video from me. Otherwise, let's go ahead and dive in. The first mistake you might run into is if your video and audio tracks are not selected. You can see here on the left that we have these V1, V2, V3, A1, A2, A3, and some of them are blue, some of them are not. If I scroll over it, you can see this little text pops up that says toggle the track targeting for this track. And over here on the left, it's source patching and inserts and overwrites. So if I do not have either of these selected, and I'm up here trying to work on a soup recipe, I have selected an in and an out for this clip that I want to add. And normally I would just press the period key to drop it in. I'm pressing it now and it's not doing anything. If I highlight this square right here and press period, it still will not come in. I need to highlight this toggle to get it to overwrite. If I wanted it to overwrite on V2, I would simply highlight that one. And when I press period, it will come in on V2. It will come in on whichever track you have highlighted over here. Also, if you are using the up and down arrows to navigate between cuts in the timeline, it will only work on targeted tracks. You can see I have both highlighted blue here, and as I press the up arrow, it jumps to the previous cut. The down arrow would jump to the next cut. If I deselect this one, it will still work, but this one, as you can see, just jumps to the very beginning. This is also useful if you are trying to match a frame in the source monitor and you have clips stacked on top of each other. As you can see, I have no clips selected, but I do have V1 targeted. So if I were to come here where I have 2 clips stacked on top of each other and press F, it is going to search for this V1 targeted track. If I were to target V2 as well, let's come out here so we know exactly what we're finding. Now it will find V2. If I were to click on a specific clip in here and press F, then it would find whichever frame was from the highlighted clip. Another mistake you might come across is muted or hidden audio or video tracks. If you're wondering why your video won't show or your audio isn't playing, make sure you haven't hidden or muted the track. You can find that here on the video layer. It has a little eye toggle. And if you are hiding it, it gets a slash through it. Down here in audio, the M mutes the track and you would not hear it. So if I have everything showing, certainly this is not something I would want to do in a video, but I'm just using it as an example of 2 tracks stacked on top of each other. Now if I mute the audio, it does not play, but the video does. And if I were to hide, let's say, V1, suddenly everything is black out here. V2 comes through because we have not hidden that track. So if you are not seeing or hearing what you would expect to, just check to make sure this little I or the M are not toggled. If you were to open up your project and suddenly realize your media is offline and you were not expecting that, it's possible that you moved your files somewhere on your computer. Your project is going to look for your clips wherever they were when you imported them. So if they get moved, they can't link. You can do this easily manually by moving them back to where they originally were, or right-click or control-click on an individual clip and choose Link Media. From here, you just need to find the correct file. In this case, it's right here. And now that clip is linked. If you were doing this right when opening the project and you linked one, it should link the rest as long as they are all in the same place. Another problem you might run into is if your playback in your program monitor is looking really choppy and it's hard to tell what exactly you've accomplished in your timeline. I cannot show this problem because I have a pretty powerful computer, so it's not lagging for me anymore, but this did happen when I had an older computer. And usually if there is a red line up here at the top, you can see some of it's red, some of it is yellow over here. The red line means you have added some effects or transitions or something that's just making the computer work a little harder to process that. So if your computer is short on memory, your footage may not play smoothly in the timeline, especially after applying those effects or transitions. And to fix that, you can choose to render either a selection by highlighting clips in your timeline and choosing Sequence Render Selection, or in this case, I have already set an in and out point, and I could choose to render in to out. You could also render just the audio or render effects in and out, whatever you need to do to watch back your footage and make sure it looks okay. The final mistake I want to cover today is if you apply a transition and it looks a little choppy but you can't figure out why, you may have ghost frames. These are a few frames of another clip that may be visible only during a transition. For example, if I cut my clip close to the start of another clip, then add a dissolve, I may not have enough frames of the clip I want to accommodate that transition. In this example, I am repurposing a full video that I created. I have gotten rid of the beginning and the end, and I'm just using the middle where I actually make the recipe. And then down here in the timeline, I've added a photo to the beginning. So if I play this, you can see that I cut this beginning clip too close to this opening shot of the energy balls. And you can just see the faintest hint of it in the transition, and we don't want that because we're not showing that clip. It doesn't make sense, and it's just a little distracting and confusing and unprofessional looking. So to fix that, we can either trim our clip itself, and you can see the transition doesn't last long enough to pick up on those extra frames anymore. Or we could try adjusting the length of the transition itself so that we don't get that ghost frame in there. In this case, I have cut it much too close for that to work. So it would be a better idea to trim the clip itself rather than the transition. That's it. I know I have made every one of these mistakes at some point or another. It's bound to happen, and the fix is really so easy for each and every one of them that I hope this is helpful to you and saves you some time in the future. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe right below here so you never miss another video from me. Also, I have linked down in the description box below a link to our Facebook group, which you are welcome to join, where we can discuss anything food, photography, and videography related. If you have any questions, that's definitely the best place to get a hold of me. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.